cheeks, buns, and bubbles, and a whole lot of troubles at this bar in Tennessee here on AfterBuzz TV.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Bar Rescue After Show here on AfterBuzz TV. Guys, this was a landmark episode for me.
Why was it landmark?
I felt it leaned into everything that I love about Bar Rescue, Kevin. I felt we had the crazy characters, but we also had the redemptive stress test. It had everything.
Everything.
I thought it was great. And guys, my name is Jeffrey Graham. I'm here to cover our favorite show on Paramount Network. Of course, that's Bar Rescue, and I'm not alone. I'm here with, I would say, bar connoisseur and television expert, Keven Undergaro.
TV expert, yes, bar connoisseur. No longer, I guess back in the day I was a bar connoisseur. I wish I were again because bars are fun.
Hospitality expert?
No, not
you
a
don't
bit.
think so?
Friend of Jon Taffer.
Friend of Jon Taffer, but I will say, if you
and
guys
I would
know
say
Keven,
Bar Rescue's one of Bar Rescue's biggest fans.
I'd say that's definitely true, but I don't want you to underplay your ability to at least decorate. And
no business. No, I know branding and
Keven
business.
knows branding and business and lighting.
Yeah, well, no, here's the thing. I've said this about Jon. There's just certain people that no matter where you put them, they're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
So Jon, post 9/11, he would have figured it out.
Yeah.
In New York City. The way Giuliani back in the day figured out. That's who Jon is. And I've been known to be that. So I've dabbled in different businesses and I've always been able to pick it up.
It's true.
And I think that so a lot of this comes down to common sense and taste. And I will say I've learned so much from watching Jon and Bar Rescue. And that's why even before you started here, Jeff, the first 5 years I had the staff watch this. It was mandatory to watch, not for AfterBuzz per se, but just to learn business.
Yeah.
And so these principles, most of the principles he puts out are universal.
Management, too. He's such a good manager.
Management, coaching, the way tonight, great episode, how he, just the techniques he uses. Every week it's a different one, and he uses different techniques based on different people.
Yes.
But, yeah, and I feel like it's universal. We can all apply them in different aspects. So in that respect, yeah, that's why I get what he does. I apply a lot of his principles. I think I've shared some of mine with him too.
I think so.
That's why we have a really good relationship. But I agree, tonight's episode fired on all cylinders. It has been an amazing season.
It's been a great season. And if this is your guys' first time tuning into the Bar Rescue After Show, we're an after show, so we will be reviewing the episode that just aired last Sunday night, Twerking from 9 to 5. But that's not it, guys. We also have some Taffer takeaways, and we have an update, for better or for worse, about Gaddy Shack.
I hope it's for better.
We're going to get there later in the show, so make sure
right.
you guys stay tuned. We've gotten into some of our overall thoughts, Kev, but it sounds like we both really liked this episode.
I loved
it too.
But can I say, I'm so far loving this season.
Yeah.
And you guys, we've done so many of these. And a lot of people will say with these kind of shows, like, okay, it's the same formula. Every week we walk in, we hate it, recon. We should not be enjoying this. I should not be crying at the end of an episode. I should not be cracking up the way I was during this one, but also this season. This season has been great. Like maybe one of them was a little softer than the others, but this season has been amazing. And and I just gush about tonight. I loved it. And Jon was the most emotional.
I know. You could see it.
He's been emotional before in episodes. I think as I'm watching these more and more, he's getting more emotional in his older age, but he was super emotional on this.
I'm glad you brought that up, Kev. Without getting too off track, I covered The Bachelor here at AfterBuzz TV, and that show's like 26 seasons in.
Right.
And that's another example of how reality TV needs to keep the formula fresh. And if any of you guys watch that show, which is likely because it's one of the most watched shows in America, they totally broke format this season, and it shows how you need to do these kinds of things. And I love that Bar Rescue isn't afraid to be taking risks.
You have to, yeah.
So I totally thought it was a great episode, too. I laughed. I cried. It moved me, Kev.
Yeah, no, me too.
Well, let's go ahead and get into it. We had an amazing cast of characters. Let's get our time and place real quick. Of course, we're in Antioch, Tennessee. I love how this episode, they kind of gave us an idea of what Antioch looked like, both in terms of a demographic perspective and with that map. It's always nice when we can get some of those behind-the-scenes business things. But I want to talk about these characters. We have married co-owners Robert and Ashley, who I was very quickly endeared to. I thought they were a great, you could tell, earnest, hardworking couple that really needed a coach. But I want to get into these. We have Don Juan in the kitchen. Who,
the names were fantastic.
Speaking of the names, we've got to get into this bar staff. Because we had Buns, we had Cheeks, We had Bubbles, and we had Deanna.
Deanna.
And Deanna. And then also Mariah, who showed up later. She didn't appear till I was like, who's Mariah? But our trifecta, our three stooges of Buns, Bubbles, and Cheeks. In theory, on paper, I should have been annoyed by these three, but something about the three of them I loved. I was in on the three of them right from the start, Kev.
I agree, and I was saying that to you. I'm like, most of these staffs that are heinous, narcissistic, selfish, bratty, lazy, I don't enjoy seeing them. I enjoy seeing them be fired, and I certainly wouldn't want to be waited on by them. But this group, I actually would hang out with them.
I thought the same thing.
They were really fun.
They were really fun. You had kind of pitched, like, it's the kind of thing where, do you know what Dick's Last Resort is?
Yes, of course.
It's kind of that same type of thing where I think, like, Cheeks Showdown, Cheeks, Buns, and Bubbles, you come and you're dealing with...
It actually gave me the idea, I was telling you that, like a kind of bar that's themed where the staff is horrible. Yeah. And you're purposely, you're a part of the joke.
Absolutely. I would go hang out with Cheeks, Buns, and Bubbles, but... We're going to talk about, of course...
On a softer note, but then obviously business-wise...
Yeah, business-wise, they were completely ill-equipped.
Because they weren't in on the joke. Like, that's how they were.
Exactly.
Again, fun people to hang out with. No,
and they weren't being managed well, which is what Jon was able to lean into with this recon. And, of course, who he has on his recon is Derek Turner and Michael Ferrari. Were these new?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They're probably locals.
But what's funny is they kept talking about New York for both of them.
Oh, I don't know. But I'll tell you what I loved. Mm-hmm. It's the first time, I think it's the first time I've ever seen, usually the recon people, I've done recon for Jon a few times on this show, we're offended or we're poisoned or whatever. These guys, it was so bad, they just start cracking up at the end. Did you see? Yeah. No, but they start laughing. Do you see? They lost it. And I was like, again, always bar rescue first. Cracking up. They're like, this is so bad. This is hilarious.
Well, if I was at a bar and the bartender started humping the bar and twerking in my face, I'd be entertained.
Right. Well, after you've ordered everything and you got a bad margarita, you never got your drink, they have no food, and the twerking in the face.
The twerking in the face.
And then the fights.
Yeah, the margarita kind of looked like a green apple Jolly Rancher.
Yeah. And
then they asked for an old fashioned, and my favorite part was none of them knew how to make an old fashioned, and rather than own up, they just go, "Yeah, we got you."
Yeah.
And they were just
then nobody asked. And then nobody worked. That was beautiful.
I think they're just hoping that everyone would forget that the old fashioned was ordered. In the cook, they're asking for shots in the back.
Yeah, 3 shots. Ding, 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 ding.
Don Juan? Yeah, Don Juan.
Don Juan
is cracking up.
How dare you?
I know. I'm sorry, Don. He's watching the women behind the bar. Yeah. He's just loving it.
Loving it.
He's here for the show. He's in the audience. He's cracking up. He's encouraging Cheeks to twerk. It is. I even felt like Jon was kind of here for it. Like he was, we were getting the classic Jon anger, but he was like, "What are they doing?" And I could see in his eyes he was this close to laughing. And so Jon comes in and he's like, "This is the worst. This is the most ill-controlled bar staff I've ever seen."
Ever. Look, so I've been looking for these milestones every week.
Yeah.
So first time I've seen Recon laugh, Jon said one of the most uncontrolled staffs, but he says at the end, he's never seen this kind of transformation. One of the most controlled to almost a perfect stress test.
Yes.
Which we've never seen before.
Yeah, it shows how much potential this bar staff had. They just needed the right management.
I'm an older white guy, so I can culturally appropriate, correct?
Do it. Yeah, it's safe. If any group is the safest to do this, Kev,
it's me.
A middle-aged straight white male. This is your time.
So let me mansplain to everybody.
Please.
But I will tell you that, just if that was the same thing going on in a white bar, which we've seen often enough.
Oh, yeah.
It would have been far more anger, far more ego, and it would have been far more difficult to get them to turn around, and more than likely they wouldn't. These are the ones who walk out and tell Jon to F himself.
For sure.
And he has to work way harder to break the owner. But I have found, and if you look at your other bar rescues, the minority owners, much more humble, much more grateful, much more open to taking direction.
I agree.
And being like, you know what? No one's ever given us a handout. You're here. You're trying. And I respect you've opened 800 bars. I'm going to listen.
Absolutely.
And if you look at the other minority owner episodes, it's been the same way. But then when you go to the Mighty Whitey, it's like, oh yeah, okay, whatever, buddy. I'm a businessman myself. I know what I'm doing, and they're vicious, or they're angry, or they're bitter. They're the ones who flip him off, and peel out with the car. And with this, it was like we had the one girl with the bad attitude. She wasn't cleaning. She wasn't helping. Get out. And, typical of those dysfunctional people who are like, I thought we were friends. Well, what kind of friend or family are you when you're just sitting down not helping? So clearly, you're not a friend back. But then even the other girl they had to let go, it was a nicer moment because she was like, maybe I do need to make some changes.
She got emotional.
Again, it was so... I have to think, Jon, as a teacher and as a coach, you get more energy off your players and your students who appreciate the lessons, take the lessons, put them into action, then that just makes you want to do more. And I think that's why, Jon just, he sensed it immediately and rooted for them. But again, I don't think it's a coincidence with a lot of the minorities. In fact, every single minority owner we've seen on this show has behaved in this way.
It's a very sharp observation, Kevin. Without getting too political, I think the phenomenon you're discussing is a lot of the reason our political climate is the way it is. I think there's this kind of resentment and unseen kind of quiet feeling amongst poor white people. And I don't want to get political, but I just think you're hitting on something kind of interesting and zeitgeisty.
Well, there's a reason. Listen, most stereotypes that are put out there, and I'll take this from Adam Carolla, but he's always like, his running joke was like, listen, there's a reason that these stereotypes come out. He's like, you're not going to make fun of a German guy for his driving. You know what I mean? Like, is it? So there's a reason why they call it white people entitlement.
Yeah.
And again, all races have their issues and all cultures have their issues. I'm saying that's one thing that I do see often is that white people entitlement, and it makes them very difficult to coach. I know here at AfterBuzz, we have many, many hoops we put up for the auditioning process to be a host here at a network to host after shows. And we're now down to, it's of the people who make it through, it's 90 to 95% females, minorities, and people of different or sexual orientations. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it's a coincidence. I just think that, the average white guy is like, I got it. I don't need you guys. Like, I don't need to come host here. He's going to call me tomorrow. So I think that's one of the things that I see. Anyway, so it was just wonderful. Here's the thing. Black, white, polka dotted, to me, just to see a group of people who were in need, who were screwing up, who took the criticism and were forgiving and were able to take it all to this level, all that stuff, and to arc to where they arced, it was a thing of beauty. And that's why Jon was crying at the end.
I absolutely agree. And I do want to point out one funny moment during this recon. When Jon was going in on Cheeks, Bubbles, and Buns, they couldn't help but start laughing a little bit. And I gotta say, when I saw them trying to hold it back,
I loved it.
It was so funny.
Yeah, I loved them all laughing. Well, that was what was so great about this.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. There's an old saying, and I live by it. Hire for heart, train for skill.
Ooh.
They had heart.
Yeah, they did.
They just didn't have skill, but they had heart, and they were fun.
They were fun.
When you go to a bar, like Jeff, you used to work on cruise ships, right?
Yeah.
The reason I think you did so well, the reason you did so well here at AfterBuzz is because you're fun, and you're happy, and you're positive, and you can work with that.
And I had a lot of skills I needed to develop when I got here.
Absolutely.
And you guys got me there.
Right. But we, Marie and I, the rest of the staff was all down on you about the skills. Marie and I were like, no, it's not even a question that we're not going to hang on to him. No, in fact, he's better than all of you guys because of his attitude.
Goes so far.
Goes so far. So these guys had a great attitude, and then part of that is them giggling at the person being laughed at. And here's another bar rescue first. The fact that they were crushing on the expert he's new tonight.
Yes, that was Derek.
Derek's new, who I loved. He was great because usually, the experts, it's like I always go to Mia and Phil Wills and Lisa Marie, and they're very serious, and at the end they'll give you the thumbs up and the pat in the back. But they were really like, oh, look at the looks he's making. Look at him. And at first I thought they were making fun of him and not paying attention, but no, they actually liked him.
Yeah.
And then he blushed. And, he dropped his guard too. Like,
Yeah, it was different.
But that's why they're so special.
Yeah,
they even got him. But come on, I know we're here to learn and get better, but can we just have a little fun?
Absolutely.
And I loved it. And again, you can work with that.
I couldn't agree more. Real quick, we talked about marrying liquor, and that was a recurring theme throughout
that is a big no-no.
I found some stuff online about this. If it's a quick thing, if you guys are interested.
No, it's huge.
It's illegal in 50 states.
It's a no-no.
There are many reasons why, but one of them is tax avoidance, because each bottle of liquor is taxed either by the bottle or volume. So when you reuse liquor, it's tax fraud.
So it's so funny that leave it to the government. The reason that the reason that they police it is that reason.
Yeah.
The real reason they should police it, first of all, sanitary reasons, but second of all, the most important one is marrying bottles doesn't mean marrying the same brand. I can't tell you how many scumbags, Jeff, will pour like cheap vodka into a Grey Goose bottle. Oof. And so that's why it's supposed to be a no-no.
Right.
But leave it to the IRS.
Tax fraud.
It costs them money, so they do something. But really, it's a huge no-no. Yeah, you don't do that. And they were doing it innocently. It wasn't.
Right.
It wasn't. I'm going to put an expensive brand in a cheap brand, because believe me, Bar Rescue would have loved that as a plot point. So it was innocent, but it's very scary.
Well, Jon finally confronted Robert and Ashley, and I think had some really incisive take on them, which is, guys, your staff's out of control, but it always comes down to the manager. And Robert and Ashley knew right away. They owned up and they said, we're with you, Jon.
There's the humility.
Exactly.
Where they were like, you know what, you're right. And the fact that he stepped up, usually it's so hard for these owners who are codependent or know-it-alls. Like, first of all, it's the ones like, don't tell me to run my business. Then there's other people like, oh, but... Jack has been with us forever.
Our equipment isn't up to standard.
But they'll stand. They won't make the firings.
Oh, I know.
This guy was. Another thing too, though, that I was taught by Phil Svitek, who worked with me for years. Phil came up as a soccer player, and he was the one that turned me on to, hey, let's start hiring athletes. This guy was a football player, so why athletes are good to hire, especially team sport athletes, is because they understand how to work with a team, they understand a system, and they can be coached. So it's this guy's a linebacker, he's a football player, and that's why he was like, got to coach. You're right. Yep. You're right.
I will say, though, in terms of the firing, this was an emotional moment of the episode, because it was that thing where, this staff had been together, and it's the complicated family dynamic we talk about a lot. And Ashley eventually was ready to let both Cheeks and Buns go. But it took her a minute, and she really had to get her courage up.
Right.
And she knew it was right, but that doesn't mean it was easy. And Cheeks, felt betrayed, but Buns knew that she was being done a favor. So it was really nice to see Buns get as emotional as she did. I'm sorry, I'm trying my best to stay serious, guys.
Buns came in doing what most drunks do. I do that every night. It's all good.
Right.
No. And he stuck by his guns. I thought they were going to say, okay, one more chance. I love that they stuck by the guns. I would have given her one more chance, wrongly. But when someone has a drinking problem like that, you're not going to fix it in one night. And it seems like she does.
Yeah.
So, but the other girl, had a chance. And we see this all the time too. Most of you guys, if you're in this position as an employee and you do want to keep your job, then fight to keep your job.
Yeah.
You don't double down.
Right.
And be like, well, I'm not going to do this, and I'm not going to, well, then if you don't want to work, then, dear, that's what you're saying.
Right.
And that's what she was saying. I'm not going to clean, and I'm not going to do this. I'm
Kev, she wiped down 2 shelves.
Oh, I forgot. Sorry.
It's okay. I mean, I just want to make sure we have it on the record.
You're right, that she wiped down 2 shelves.
She did it. God.
By the way, I see this all the time. And I always laugh behind the scenes, like, you fight for your job.
Yeah. Especially when the stakes are that high.
Or don't.
Cheeks knew that someone was getting fired. If you know you're getting fired in your Cheeks, it's not the time to only wipe down. What's that?
A landmark firing.
Ooh, because the landmarks were already in place?
No, because you fire one person and it's like it sets a tone. It's a landmark firing because now everyone, and if that doesn't work, you fire the next person. If that doesn't work, you fire the next person, and you keep going down the line. And you have to be bold and brave as an owner.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, I fell for this episode because the owner had an injury that took him away. So my mother-in-law got stage 4 brain cancer and a tumor. 8 months later, my wife got a tumor. So I was away from AfterBuzz for 2 years. So I know what it feels like to come back and be like, oh my God. And same thing. It's like, okay, well, going to have to make a landmark change. And
Right.
then, and it's okay. You're not going to get the memo. Here's another one. Here's another one. And we're just going to keep going until you just do what you need to do, which is just do the work.
Right.
You know?
It's so true. And that did shake up the staff. But what's amazing is it set this team up for success in a way that we've never seen on this show. As we prep for the stress test, we get our new recipes. We're talking about sort of transitioning this sort of, again, the Crossroads bar, to me, it wasn't incredibly dirty or
No, that's right.
It just didn't have an identity,
it
right,
didn't have
Keven?
an identity, and and that's why even the interior change wasn't so drastic.
Exactly.
It was
just
much
needed,
more about the name and the menu. I'm getting ahead of myself, but
we needed a reason to go to this bar.
By the way, compliments to Jon and Bar Rescue producers for not driving up and complaining about the outside.
Exactly.
Because I see on these other shows, they have to stick to the formula. Do you ever notice that? And they come
this
up,
bush hasn't been trimmed.
and you kind of saying to yourself, well, geez, that bush doesn't look so bad to
Right.
me.
Yeah.
So to me, it was like, yeah, the outside didn't look bad. It didn't look great, but it didn't look bad. And I like that Jon and the experts were like, you know what? Yeah.
It adds a level of credibility because then when you do see, pardon my French, but when you do see shit hitting the fan, Keven, you know that it's actually happening
right.
because they're
Yeah.
able to own up to the truth of what's working and really own up to the truth
Be
of what's not
authentic.
working.
Just be authentic.
So they know that they have to sort of transition the identity of this bar. So they decide to go sort of the Southern catfish Cajun direction, which I think is smart. So we have we have Michael teaching them this new remoulac recipe, which is a special kind of Southern sauce for catfish sandwiches. This looked good.
It did look good.
I will say, though, I get a little weird about fish at a bar. I'll eat pretty much any kind of bar food, but I get a little weird about fish.
Okay. So I'm glad you said that. I feel the exact same way.
Yeah.
Catfish gross to me. I will say, though, when they prepared it with this batter and it looked unbelievable.
Looked really good.
It made me want to eat fish.
It did.
And I don't eat fish. On the sushi, I won't do like this kind of fish
Fried.
either. No.
Yeah. It looked good, though.
But
I agree.
it did look really good. And remember, the theme.
Yeah, exactly.
Southern, which I've never
kind
heard
of a
before.
Southern Mississippi.
A Southern grill. Like
Yeah.
a Southern, like I've never heard that before. I love that, you know?
Yeah, it was smart.
Yeah.
And then for cocktails, we're going for this moonshine bootlegger, which I thought looked pretty good.
Which is great. So I like, Jon tied it together with a nice theme. I loved, I guess, when did they do the team exercise? Was it after the stress test or before?
Just before, so that's actually right next.
Okay.
We have this blindfolded exercise where the three are three stooges. Well, of course, we don't have Buns and Cheeks anymore, but we still got Mariah and Deanna and
Right.
Bubbles. And those three women have to be guided by Don and the rest of the bar. Don Juan, that's right.
Right.
Don and the rest
Thank
of the
you.
bar staff. And this team building exercise did not go that well with the blindfolds.
It didn't, but can we back up and say, what a great, typical Jon. Like I go back to first season, the baseball tavern, and he had the guy that was a baseball player and probably one of the biggest douchebag owners we've had. He's
Yeah.
still like in a top 10 to me, like an ex-jock, narcissist, cheapskate, and Jon was able to get him going a little bit. Not again, another white guy. Like he ended up turning the business back to the way he wanted to, but Jon used baseball and had them out with the baseball bat smashing things to relate to him, to have a breakthrough. So I love how Jon has these techniques. So with this, he was like, let's blindfold them. But even though, so I know they bungled it, but where it worked for me was they were all happy and positive, not being like,
Yep.
why are we here? This is our day off. This is stupid.
There's a sense of joy, even though
Yeah.
it wasn't going well, which shows how moldable this team was.
Yeah.
I will say, though, Bubbles was cracking me up because she goes, "Stop, Skylar! We can't hear you, Skylar!" She was yelling at him, and they were just entertaining. I was laughing at them. But if all that this exercise did was get them to form sort of that team bonding and a sense of joy among the team, then mission accomplished.
And also, I also want to give a shout out to the cooks because he ripped their asses out pretty good.
Yeah.
And they took it.
Yep. Yeah, this team was willing to
They
take
were
whatever
like,
they needed.
they were just like, you know what? They got real.
Yeah.
It was that whole thing. It wasn't like, I'm out of here. I don't need to be talked to like that. You show me respect. Blah blah blah, which we saw a couple weeks ago.
Yep.
But
Yeah. So this leads right into our stress test. And what I love about this stress test, and what I love about any stress tests that do this, is we have a motivating prize. You know, sometimes it's we're going to trim a guitar string every time you mess up. Or this time they pin $200 bills on the wall, and we only get those $100 bills if we can get everyone served in 20 minutes. And guys, they got everyone served.
Now, you know what's interesting?
What was that?
Okay. So notice in other techniques, you're using pain to motivate. We're gonna snip a guitar thing. We're gonna put a sticker on you.
Right.
We're gonna fill up this pitcher with all the drinks. Here's your failure.
Yeah.
And instead, it was something positive. Hey, if we work together, we'll get $100. But I think Jon knew that they were, because they were good people. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So isn't that interesting?
It's really interesting.
It's one of the few times he's used something positive as a motivation tool.
I think at this point, too, Jon was starting to kind of get soft for this team. And I feel like he was probably tired of yelling at them.
I bet you because look at how they were having fun with the experts. They probably were doing that with Jon, too.
I'm sure.
And loosening him up and poking at him, but in a good way.
And from a producing perspective, if you have a team who's if the most compelling television we're seeing from these people is joy and fun, let's make the reward joy and fun. If we have these crazy narcissists and the best TV is going to come by pissing them off, we want that negative reinforcement.
By the way, please, I want to tease predictions for next week.
Oh, I didn't even watch the next week.
Oh,
it's going to be good.
Because we went over white people entitlement. We went over minorities. Next week.
Oh, boy.
Millennials.
Oh, no.
Students.
My people.
I've never seen this before. Oh, my God. They're arguing with him on everything. It is going to be delicious.
Negotiation Central next week.
Oh, my God. Yes. Lower that bar, baby.
So the only potential snafu we have during this stress test is the non-crispy catfish. And what I was predicting was I said this was supposed to be crispy. No, you didn't. Who messed this up? But instead it was, guys, we need this crispier. And the team said, okay, we got it. You know?
Done.
And it was done. And that just shows there's no time for argument. If there's a problem, you can discuss later.
And the bar got their $100 and they got all drinks out. They were like, we got this. It was amazing.
It was really amazing. And Jon even called out, does everyone in the room have a drink?
Hey, everyone did.
Jon let them have it. And
something tells me if Mia was the expert, though, it wouldn't have gone that way.
Maybe not.
No, she's tough.
She's tough. Yeah.
If you want a perfect bar, Mia.
You need Mia.
Oh, man.
But this was a great stress test. Everyone's happy. Jon is happy. And he lets them know, guys, I saw character. I saw integrity. And this was a great stress test. This is the biggest improvement of a stress test I've ever seen. And the team was really stoked. They wanted Taffer's approval.
Yeah.
So this leads...
emotional even thinking about it.
Well, this is when it got really emotional because we come to this revamp. And Jon's talking to Robert. And he's like, Robert, what was it during this journey that made you turn around so quickly? And Robert started talking about the fact that he knew he had failed his wife. And that's the moment, you're a married man, Kev, and so am I. And, seeing a dude who's motivated to, support the most important person in their life. I got a little emotional.
Yeah, no. And also we neglected to mention how much his mom meant to him. How she was a great cook with so little. Mm-hmm. She made the best food.
Yeah.
And why that was such a motivating force too, which of course, there's a reveal.
Yeah.
When we see the complete renovation. But yeah, and there was just I don't think I've seen Jon so emotional at a reveal.
Mm-mm. I could feel him holding back tears. When you can just read someone's emotion pouring out. And it's because he really, really liked Robert. And Robert said the same thing. He said, you know what? I had to fight, but I had a really good coach. He said, coming to realize I didn't have my wife's back, I knew this was personal. And Jon says, you know what? I made it personal for you because I wanted the warrior to come out. Because I knew you would do this for Ashley. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was he comes over to Robert, says, you're a really good man. You've got great heart and great character. And with that, we get the reveal. No longer Crossroads. We've got Gaddy Shack.
Gaddy, which I love.
I love it too.
Right? It's almost like
really
the Crab
fun.
Shack.
Yeah.
Kind of, it gives you that feeling of seafood, but then obviously the name, his name, and then the whole Southern flair with the subtitling. I love it. Moonshine and what does it say under it?
Moonshine, music, and more, maybe.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I loved it. I love the new sign.
Everything was great. It felt like the kind of restaurant you would have in sort of that sort of strip mall, but that you would stop at. It had it's that nice balance of a little kitschy, but also, you know, you
my
can tell you're
one
getting something
note I
good.
wish they did.
What's this? More twerking.
No, this is me because I'm big into the renovation aspect of this. I just wish they got rid of the floor.
Oh, I
It was,
didn't even
it was
notice.
one of those ceramic tile floors, and it was fine structurally.
Right.
So it's like it's wasteful, but man, a nice wood floor in
It's just
there
not pretty.
would have been a little better. But anyway, so sorry.
No, that's good. That's a
But
good
on
point.
that, just amazing.
Beautiful. I love this. When they see the renovation, Jon hugs Robert, and the rest of the staff is like, Taffer, we want our hugs too. And then
Yeah,
Taffer
yeah.
goes and hugs all of them.
It was just amazing.
I love it.
So not him.
I know.
But that's what these guys did. They were
I know.
so special.
Yeah, he loved this crew.
And,
So did I.
and I thought the picture of him and his mom, like his family picture, was beautiful.
Jeff got a little emotional at that
Yeah,
part,
no, I cried on this one. I did.
Yes.
I cried at the end.
It's a great episode. Of course, it looks like we're back on track. Buns is getting her life together. She's not working, but it looks like it was either Cheeks or Deanna is back to training to lead the bar.
Deanna, I think Deanna.
Deanna was back. So that's good news. Unfortunately, I've got some bar rescue updates,
Oh no.
and the news is not as good.
No.
It turns out that Gaddy Shack no longer exists.
Oh no.
I think they closed about 6 weeks after this renovation, was what I was reading.
Oh.
Interestingly, though, Ashley and Robert now own a different bar called Donks, which sounds like I would love it.
The donks.
It's just Donks, which the thing that kind of cracks me up is in hip hop culture, donk is a butt, and it's typically used for twerking songs. So I wonder if we just took Robert and Ashley way too far out of their lane, and they just needed to go back to.
John, I'll find out from John. No, I think that it's something like Elise part was up. There had to be a reason. If they opened another bar, then there had to be a reason why. 6 weeks after.
Yeah,
That's all you have for info, huh?
It says the bar was closed a little bit after the makeover, and it did have a grand reopening and then closed quickly after that. I don't know. Ashley's teaching bartending courses at Donks now, though. Here, I have the conclusion here. Crossroads Grill was renamed to Gaddy Shack by Bar Rescue, and the bar did keep the name. The Bar Rescue makeover was done over a year ago, and Gaddy Shack didn't stay open for too long after the makeover. Ashley and Robert own another bar in Nashville called Donks, which is having a watch party for the Bar Rescue episode tonight. It seems that they decided to close Gaddy Shack and focus on their new bar, Donks.
Gotcha.
So hopefully Donks is great.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
Because people like them and they want to be around them. Yeah,
Right.
I'll. John will know. I'm going to find out from Taff.
Great. And we'll have
Jon
that update
Taffer.
for you next week, guys.
Predictions for next week.
Do we want a Taffer takeaway, Kev? Before
Oh,
we get...
please. I forgot. Sorry, Jeff. Didn't mean to Shanghai.
No. It's all good. My Taffer takeaway here would be that have fun. You know what? Work hard, but if you can create a sense of joy and not make light of, but create positivity in a challenging work environment, it'll
Yeah.
take you so far. It'll literally
Yes.
change people. It changed
100%.
Jon.
100%.
We saw Jon approach this team with a completely different attitude because they had a sense of joy about what they were doing.
I've told you this before. There was a guy in the carny business named Filthy. And Phil was his name, but his nickname was Filthy. Of
course.
And Filthy used to say, you can scam all you want, but you got to work. And so there were many translations of that. But the one thing that we always took by it was, as long as we're doing our work, we can fuck around all we want. So we would do our job, but then we would do things that just made each other laugh.
Yeah.
And, as long as you did the work.
Right.
And then, later, I still use it. You can scam all you want, but you got to work. So no matter what you're doing in life, you have to do the work. But if you do the work, have some laughs. You know what I mean? As long as you do the work.
Exactly. You got to eat your dinner before you can have dessert, but
Exactly. Yeah.
let's have dessert.
But if you have a staff that is ultimately positive, you can get them there. If they're ultimately negative, ooh.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, it's tough. And that's when you have to make the landmark firings. That's my thing was based on that. It was negativity.
Absolutely.
So it's just being positive. We'll take you so much further. And these guys were just a great example.
I love it.
Happy, fun people and easy to coach, amenable to change. So I want to find out what's up with what's up. Hopefully the new bar's doing well. I'm sure it is.
We'll look into Donks and get you guys an update next week. Kev, I have to admit, I did not watch the Next Week on Bar Rescue promo.
It's something like a group of students. And and it's amazing. No, they're all they're like you, Jeff. They're all millennials, but they're not like you because you're fun and being positive. They're not those things. They're what we were talking about earlier on our after show. It seems like it's like they're questioning and arguing on everything. I'm predicting there'll be a lot of tears because you can't yell at a millennial. Like they're not used to that. So it's going to be fun to watch. Usually we're seeing Jon go against narcissists, entitled drunks, broken down failures, burnouts. So to see him with like bratty millennials is going to be amazing.
Bratty millennials.
Yeah, woke bratty millennials who've never been yelled at, and to have that maniac screaming at you.
I feel personally victimized by your attitude right now, Jon.
I'm being bullied.
And I'm being bullied, and I do not approve of this environment.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so excited, Keven.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, it's going to be great. These are my people.
Yeah.
Well, it was a great episode. And Bar Rescue, 6 seasons in. And
Still
really,
delivering.
if we're being honest, we're 9 seasons in. But
Yeah,
season
really.
6, you still kicking ass. Maybe as best as the show's ever been.
I mean, I have to say, yeah, this has been an outstanding season. As I said, I try to even think of what the soft one was, but all the other ones have delivered for me. Every week, though, I realized Pirates
I still haven't seen
and
Pirates, Kev.
Cockroach Man and Wonder Bar, it's like taking heroin. And what happens is you have that first blast of heroin, and it's amazing. And then you're spending the rest of your future highs trying to get that high back.
Yeah.
Which it can almost never happen. So where these shows are still outstanding and they bring in all my emotion, I'm still waiting for the next Pirates. I'm still waiting for the next Wonder Bar. Please, if, to the great and mighty merciful Allah, hear me. Deliver me just one more pirate.
We're going to get a pirate.
Well, by the way, can you watch Pirates?
I need to watch it. I'll watch Pirates
before
for next week. I promise I will.
You will not
My
be
wife's out of
disappointed.
town, so
you're going to be in
now's the
shock.
time.
You will not be disappointed, Jeff.
I can't wait. Well, guys, this has been your Bar Rescue After Show here on AfterBuzz TV. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. If this is your first time tuning into AfterBuzz TV, guys, Bar Rescue isn't the only show we cover. We truly cover everything that airs. I mentioned The Bachelor earlier. I'm both mortified and very proud to admit that I do host that after show as well. Actually, guys, I love it. I'm going to be honest. The Bachelor is one of the best shows I've ever seen on television. And I'm a pretentious, snooty television watcher, and I love The Bachelor, just like I love Bar Rescue.
Jeff, can I just... if Bachelor is your heroine...
Yes.
I'm going to introduce you to the Subutext, which will eventually become your heroin or your crystal meth if you give it a try.
Great.
90 Day Fiancé.
You know what?
I'm telling you,
all of the
Jeff,
comics I love, Kev, on Twitter talk about how this is the best show on television.
90 Day Fiancé.
Yes.
It is. It's the Down syndrome version of Bachelor.
Oh my gosh. He said that, not me, guys.
Well, this is, we decide that white middle-aged men can say whatever they want.
The optics are best if you're saying these things, I think, for the show and the network.
Well, I think that's most acceptable today, isn't it?
I think that's right.
By the way, no, see, now that on a nice note, look, we never even introduced our third co-host.
We do.
Here.
We've got Willie over here, guys.
Little Willie, our foster doggy who needed a lot of medical help. And Uncle Kev and Auntie Maria came in, and we wrote all the big checks and did all the nursing at home.
Yes.
And now Willie is so good that he was able to come in and co-host with us today.
He is.
So for you YouTube viewers, by the way, if you're on iTunes, well, I'm sorry you can't see Willie. Come over to YouTube and see Willie. And if you do, can you please comment on our show and give us a like? And if you're on iTunes, we haven't had any iTunes comments in a while because I feel like iTunes is now so saturated with Apple Podcasts is so saturated now with podcasts more than it's ever been. But still, if you want to give us some love over there, we would love that in return.
And we'll read it on air, guys, if you comment on the Bar Rescue. Make us laugh, especially when we read it on air. We're going to get in trouble with our producer, Bree. You can play that music again. We're getting out of here, guys. My name is Jeff Graham, guys. If you want to find me online, you can do that at Jeffrey C. Graham.
And I'm at Undergaro, and you can also check me out on the AfterBuzz TV Billions After Show. Yes. I do it with Nadine Della Pella and Regina Coles. And then we also do The Tomorrow Show on Wednesday nights.
And Keven, dare I say, is The Tomorrow Show the Down syndrome version of Stern? Is that a safe thing to say? Or
that's too big of a compliment. No, because Howard is, that's God. So I don't know what I would be.
I will say though, guys, I truly do love The Tomorrow Show, and if you like Kevin's hot takes on this show, that's all of The Tomorrow Show, and it's truly educational and truly strange in a way that I've never seen combined in a single podcast. And I mean it when I say I love that show. I tune in every Wednesday.
You and our 1,000 YouTube viewers agree, and our 10,000 audio listens agree with
Which
you
is
as
legit.
well.
It's a small but loyal fan base, Kev. You should tune into that and tune into our shows here on AfterBuzz TV, guys. Thank you. We'll see you next week here on the Bar Rescue After Show.
Bye.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.